The rain didn't fall, it leaked, like something above was breaking down, slowly, deliberately. The sky wasn't mourning, it was unraveling. Fallowmere Lane sat still, buildings hunched together like co-conspirators sharing secrets behind stone teeth. Fog crept along the cobblestones like a rumor trying not to be overheard. Up on the third floor, behind a trembling bulb and brittle glass, Klein Moretti hadn't moved in 20 minutes. The cigarette between his fingers had died a slow, unattended death. Ash bent sideways, threatening collapse. On the desk in front of him, a file, tan, plain, unassuming in the way that only dangerous things are. Case file, Eliza Fenwick. Age, 27. Botanist. Last seen Tuesday. Gable Street. No signs of struggle. No scent. No note. Just gone. He hadn't turned the page. Didn't need to. He thought inwardly, when people vanish, it's never this neat. Neat is for paperwork. Vanishing is messy. The file was symmetrical. Balanced. That was the problem. He hated symmetry. He thought to himself, symmetry's a liar. It tells you there's order in chaos. There isn't. The bulb above him sputtered, then thought better of dying. The chair groaned beneath him as he stood. He couldn't tell if it was the wood or the gilt. He slipped on his coat, collar raised more out of habit than weather. Outside, the city felt like it was holding its breath. Gable Street greeted him like an old enemy, pretending to be polite. He buzzed the door at number 18. It opened reluctantly. The landlady wore grief like a borrowed coat. It didn't quite fit anymore. She mentioned Eliza used to laugh, at night, not joyfully, like someone was whispering a joke just behind her ear. He nodded, didn't ask. He thought inwardly, if you ask about voices, they start answering. Inside the apartment, silence. Not the peaceful kind, the curated kind. Every book shelved with obsessive precision. Latin titles, botanical glossaries, no dirt, no dust, no life. A teacup sat cooling beside a closed notebook. A cracked window let in the rain, not enough to speak, just enough to breathe. And then he saw it, carved deep into the doorframe. A spiral, deliberate, smooth, bleeding, but not red, something darker, thicker, too slow to be natural. He crouched, penlight in hand. The spiral glistened like it remembered pain. The groove was too precise, the edges too clean, almost like the wood had tried to heal and failed. He thought to himself, you don't bleed from the frame, you bleed from the wound inside the room, from his coat, his father's journal, old leather, soft-spined. It opened to page 9 as if by muscle memory. There it was, the spiral, drawn in jagged graphite, trembling. Below it scribbled, "Smile when the world splits." He stared at it for a long moment, then closed the book and left. Behind Gable Street, the alley didn't belong. Not yesterday, not the day before. Now it was there, wedged between buildings like the street had inhaled just long enough to show its teeth. At the end, a door, yellow metal, industrial, rust-chewed, a spiral scratched into the paint. He stepped forward, opened it. The hallway inside bent geometry. The corners repelled the light. The shadows weren't passive, they were deliberate. The floor creaked in a language he didn't speak. At the far end, a wall, a single nail, and on that nail, a mask. White porcelain, spiral carved over one eye, a crack running down the cheek like a tear hardened into scar. It grinned. Not painted, etched. Below it, a red carnival ticket, bitten, not cut. He moved toward it slowly. Each step felt like it belonged to someone else. The hallway didn't extend, it folded. The air pressed in like it was learning his shape. He reached the mask, hovered a hand above the ticket. It was cold. Not paper cold, memory cold. Then a voice, childlike, close, wrong. Hee. You're early for the show, detective. He froze, turned. Nothing behind him, no movement, no figure, only breath. The hallway didn't blink, didn't twitch. It waited. Then, the door behind him slammed shut, the lights died. Darkness fell like a stage curtain. The spiral behind the mask began to glow, soft, unsettling. It pulsed, like a heartbeat on the wrong side of the wall. Then, stillness. He thought to himself, glowing spirals, whispering children, missing botanists. I really need to get a less interesting job. He exhaled slowly through his nose. Not fear, not yet. He thought inwardly, well, at least there's no popcorn. To be continued in Act 1, Part 2. Part Smoke and Shadows. The spiral begins to tighten. The apartment door shut behind him like a verdict. No sound, just finality. The air inside had shifted, subtly, like someone had exhaled the moment he entered. He hadn't left the lights on, but they were. Too warm, too steady, the kind of glow you find in showrooms or crime scenes. He thought to himself, either someone cleaned in a hurry or I'm being staged like a museum piece. He passed the mirror in the hallway, paused. His reflection moved with him, almost, but the smile came late, only by a fraction. A flicker, but it came. He thought inwardly, good. Either the mirror's haunted or I've finally become emotionally delayed. He didn't look back, not yet. The living room greeted him with a stillness that felt curated, notebook in hand, cigarette between his lips. The journal, his father's, rested heavier than usual. Each spiral he found made it feel more like a tombstone. He slumped into the chair like gravity had been waiting for him to sit down all day. Lit the cigarette with the ease of someone who definitely wasn't coping. The Fenwick file sat beside the journal. Laughing girl, spiral doorframe, vanished like a magician's assistant, minus the applause. He flipped the journal open, toward the back. A diagram, spiral-centered, converging lines, some labeled, some scratched out, dead symbols drawn like they'd been heard, not written. At the center, a figure, double spiral, eye turned inside out. Along the margin, one line of writing, sideways, faded. Spirals don't move, they wait for you to arrive. He thought to himself, excellent, geometry that stalks you, just what I needed to supplement the paranoia. He turned the page. Something fell loose from the seam. An old file, older than him. 2019, male, age 12. Last seen, St. Elar's district. Smiling uncontrollably. Door left open, no signs of struggle. Case closed. Lead dead. Except now, pencil, light, shaky, barely visible. A spiral. Same size, same tilt, same unease in the gut. He sat back, inhaled, tried not to think, failed. He thought inwardly, spirals, doors, missing children. I'm starting to feel like I should have brought chalk instead of a badge. Then, a knock. Not at the door, at the window. He turned sharply. Third floor. No balcony, just wind, glass, and the uneasy knowledge that the knock had come from the outside. 3 taps, even. Patient. He approached slowly, boots silent on the wood. Looked out, nothing but fog, and streetlights bleeding yellow into gray. Then, across the alley, where he knew there had only been a condemned wall. Now, a shop. Lights flickering. Neon tubes bending into words with too many joints. Hand and figure, curios in porcelain. He thought to himself, fantastic. An antique shop that appears mid-funeral. I'm sure this will end well. He crossed the street under cover of breath and disbelief. The storefront loomed like it had always been there, just forgotten. He pushed the door open. Bell chimed once, but the sound was wrong. Too round, too aware. Inside, porcelain masks. Dozens, hundreds, hung on walls that shouldn't exist. White, yellowed, spiral-eyed, all grinning. Not painted, made that way. Some cried glass tears, others bled threads of crimson glaze. One hummed as he passed, a frequency felt behind the teeth. Behind the counter, a man, thin, apron stained, fingers gloved in silk, wet with lacquer. The smile didn't reach his eyes because it had no intention of going there. You're early, he said softly. Klein tilted his head. No clever retort. Not this time. His eyes scanned the walls. The masks stared back. One was humming his name. The man gestured to it. That one's remembering you. Don't let it. He thought inwardly. Words to live by. Also, tattoo-worthy. Beyond the counter in the half-light. Movement. Not walking. Assembling. Hands too long. Joints too fluid. Something was building a human hand out of porcelain and clay. A mold sat beside it, his. He didn't stay. Back outside, breath fogged in front of him. The city shifted, like it was adjusting its mask. He stepped over something in the alley. White napkin, soaked red, wrapped around a finger. Still warm, two beggars sat under a rusted awning. One smiled too wide, one eye missing. Spiral tattooed above the brow. "Smile, detective," one murmured. "The mask fits better when you're hollow." He didn't run. He walked. He thought to himself, everyone's putting on a show, but no one remembers writing the script. Back inside the apartment, he didn't turn on the lights, didn't need to. The dark was getting familiar. He dropped into the chair, opened the journal, stopped. A ticket stub had been glued to a page he hadn't glued. Red, Carnival, bitten edge. Below it, scribbled in shaky ink, "Patch is bleeding again." His breath caught. Patch, a name he hadn't said in years. A memory with shoes too small and eyes too bright. Suddenly, he wasn't sure if he'd forgotten her or buried her. The journal was warm now, the pages breathing. He thought inwardly, I'm not reading the book anymore. I'm living it. The spiral was watching. And it hadn't even blinked yet. To be continued in Act 1, Part 3, The Patch-Bound Clue. Some memories wear masks, some don't. The rain hadn't stopped. It just grew quieter, like it was waiting. Klein walked beneath its hush, cigarette unlit in his mouth, fingers curled around a match he never struck. The alleyways beyond Bower's Arch wound tighter tonight, twisting like broken fingers, choked with fog. Smelled like coal, mildew, perfume gone sour, and something else, memory, burned. He didn't know why he'd come this way. He never did. Then a scream, sharp, female, real. She hit him like a ghost, a blur of wet fabric and panic and breathless momentum. They crashed into a wall, hard. She grabbed his coat, eyes wide, chest heaving. "He's coming," she gasped. He followed. He doesn't stop. He sees through walls. Her words came fast, frayed at the edges. He thought inwardly, either this is the worst date I've ever been on, or I just got tackled by a prophecy. He glanced over her shoulder. Fog swallowed the end of the alley, but something stood inside it, still, watching. White porcelain mask, spiral over one eye, no mouth, still somehow grinning, then gone. Not vanished, withdrawn. Like a hand pulled back from a too-hot stove. They ran. Her name was Patch. At least, that's what he remembered when she said it. Like a note held too long, finally resolving. She led him through twisted corridors, fences shaped like faces, puddles that didn't reflect the sky. His apartment door slammed behind them. 3 locks clicked into place like punctuation marks on a death sentence. Patch collapsed to the floor, gasping. She unwrapped something from her coat. A book, old, leather-bound. Spiral burned into the cover so deep it gleamed. Beside it, a shard of porcelain, still warm, still humming. He stared at them both. He thought to himself, if this is an apology, it needs better packaging. She looked up at him, her voice steadier now, brittle, but holding. Took it from their circle. They never locked anything. They wanted us to look, fed us dreams like sugar cubes, told us we'd be eternal. She turned around, lifted her soaked hair, and beneath her neck, just above the spine, a gem, black, embedded like guilt. It pulsed, not with light, with rhythm. He thought inwardly, nothing good ever pulses where it shouldn't. He asked if it was part of her. She laughed, bitter. I tried to cut it out. It grew back, hurts when he's near, hums when the tent breathes. He didn't ask what that meant. He knew better. Instead, he picked up the book, opened it. The pages squirmed. The language wasn't written. It was rendered. Muscle, tendon, syntax designed to twitch. He flipped to a dog-eared page, found her name. Above it, spiral glyphs. Below, a line. Witness class, dream bearer, recovered actor, status unfinalized. He thought to himself, recovered from what? Before he could ask, a thud behind the wall. She froze. He stood, listening. Then, softly, she spoke. We were neighbors once, when I was little. Something inside him fractured. Not like glass, more like paper, slow, soft, inevitable. He thought inwardly. Chalk drawings, bare feet on sunlit floors. He remembered. A girl with knees always scraped, paint under her nails, always humming something unfinished. She smiled. You gave me a broken violin, said it didn't play but looked like it might someday. Silence followed, thick, suspended. Then a creak. The mirror. He turned. His reflection stared back. But behind it, him. The Joker, porcelain, grinning. He spun, gun half drawn, nothing. Then Patch screamed. The mirror exploded inward, glass shattered in a spiral. At the center of the wreckage, a box, wrapped in striped paper, sealed with wax. He opened it. Inside, a clown's nose. Leather. Rotting. Spiral etched inside where it would press to skin. And a note. Dress rehearsal complete. Opening night approaches. Patch trembled. The gem in her spine burned red. He's here, she whispered. He followed us. He never left. Then, another voice. Female, cool, like a blade in silk. Oh, for Spiral's sake, Klein, you're bleeding fear all over the floor again. The front door opened itself. No sound, no effort. She stepped through like she belonged there, as she always did. His sister, black coat, spiral-lensed monocle glinting at her collar, gloves that didn't wrinkle, smile that could fold empires. She crossed the room, knelt beside Patch, checked her pulse, nodded. Intact, she murmured. Shame, I had bets. He asked her what she was doing here. Royal Guard sent me, she said. Cult symbology, vanishing locals, spiral contamination. Thought you might be in over your narrow head. She smiled. Also, I missed you. Patch stared at her like she'd walked out of someone else's hallucination. Who is she? Klein rubbed beneath his left eye. Old tick, never left him. He sighed. My sister. She collects puzzles and breaks things for sport. On the table, the spiral on the clown nose pulsed once, then faded. He thought inwardly. They think this is a warning. It's not. It's the invitation. To be continued in Act 1, Part 4. Notes in the Dark. Part 4. Notesim's fracture and memory bites back. The rain hadn't stopped, it had changed. Now it whispered, not across glass, but beneath it, like it had learned the shape of the windows. Klein sat on the edge of the desk, not reading, not thinking, just bracing. Patch was curled in the chair by the wall, arms wrapped around her knees. Her face was pale. The gem at her throat pulsed like a second heartbeat no one wanted. Across from them, his sister stood, surveying the room like she was cataloging weaknesses. She hadn't introduced herself. She never needed to. He thought, she's the kind of person you don't forget, even when you want to. The book Patch had carried sat between them, open, unreadable. Not because it resisted, but because it was looking back. It wasn't a book anymore. It was a presence. A page turned by itself, soft, like a breath. Patch leaned forward, pressed her palm to the parchment. Ink rose to meet her, spirals forming into glyphs, not drawn but grown, like they'd been planted beneath the page. She whispered, "It doesn't let you read it the way you think." He thought, of course not. Straightforward is for recipe books and lies. The letters squirmed, turned to bone, then root, then something that might have been language if you were born sideways. Patch continued, "It decides what you're allowed to see." Klein peered at the symbols and immediately regretted it. He thought, good, another language that stares into me while I pretend to understand it. His sister stepped forward, drew something from her coat. A monocle, brass frame, lens like a frozen pupil. She slid it into place. The lens contracted. "Not letters," she said. "Memory locks, glyph cognition scripting. You're not supposed to look raw unless you enjoy brain hemorrhages and childhood regression." He squinted at her. "Is that the technical term?" She smiled. "Close enough. Imagine chewing glass while remembering your parents never loved you. That's the decoding process." Patch whispered something else. Not English, not any known tongue, and the room thinned. The air stretched sideways. The flame on the table bent, not upward, sideways. Klein moved without thinking, hands on her shoulders, voice low. "Patch, hey, come back." She blinked, but her eyes weren't hers. Then she spoke, but it wasn't her voice. The tent breathes, the curtain is skin, all laughter becomes teeth. Her body seized. She coughed, hard, like something was crawling up the inside of her lungs. The gem flared, red, black, red again. Klein turned to the old desk, pulled open drawers he hadn't touched in years. One refused, then gave. Inside, a folded note, yellowed, charcoal-edged. His father's scent still clung to it. But the handwriting wasn't his. He watches from behind the teeth. Tell the girl not to sleep. No signature, no punctuation, just warning. He slid the note into his coat. His hand trembled once. Just once. He thought, I don't remember when I stopped being surprised. But this still comes close. A sound behind him. 3 soft taps, mirror. He turned. The mirror across the room was fogged. From the inside, no heat, no breath, just presence. At its base, a faint line of salt, placed years ago. By who? He didn't remember. Maybe he didn't want to. Something etched into the glass. One spiral. Then, wiped away. He thought, of course, polite enough to clean up after itself. Behind him, Patch stirred, spoke without turning. When I was inside the tent, they told us we weren't born. We were cast. He crouched in front of her. Her eyes met his, far too lucid. You said the gem reacts to backland energy, he said. She nodded. It doesn't react. It translates. The longer I hold it, the more I remember things I know didn't happen. Except they did. Just not here. His sister nodded, calm, annoyingly calm. Dream caching, she said. Memory recursion. Classic low-bound ritual aftershock. Klein stared at her. English? She exhaled. She's bleeding through alternate timelines. If we're lucky, she won't dissolve the next time someone says her real name. Patch blinked, looked at Klein. Quiet, hurt. You really trust her? She asked. He paused. Then, flatly, no, that's why I let her in. They turned back to the desk. The book had flipped again, another page, new spiral, delicately inked. Beneath it, 3 tickets, 3 seats. Only one belongs to you. Klein traced the spiral's edge with his fingertip. There, below the line, a date. This week. He thought, they're not waiting for us. They're preparing. Patch suddenly gasped. I remember the place, in the cliffs, the town, the way the ground moans when you walk. Then, the world dimmed. Not the light, reality. Like something stepped back from the painting it had been pretending to be. A low vibration began, from the spiral, a hum, like breath made of string. Patch's voice low, something's waking up. The apartment tilted, only slightly, but enough. The mirror cracked, just once, a fracture like a hairline in a skull. On the windowsill, a box, striped paper, wax seal. No one saw it arrive. He opened it. Inside, a torn piece of circus poster, gold, red, spiral corner. Scrawled across it, opening night delayed, final rehearsal required. The spiral pulsed once, then died. Klein stood slowly, eyes on the floor. He thought, we're not investigating anymore. We're inside it. To be continued in Act 2, Into the Ring.